Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking on your free Thanksgiving Wednesday? Welcome to the Tom Gully Show. We've got a little bit of history coming your way. As soon as I forgot to open the phones. I forgot to open the phone lines. I feel shame, deep and abiding shame in places, frankly, that I didn't think I could feel shame anymore. You may or may not know it, but today, November 22nd, 2023, is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and I live in Dallas. That's where the whole thing happened. Now, you can go to the TomGullyShow.com, and when you're done taking advantage of the amazing amount of awesome merchandise that there is there for you to buy and support this show with, you might find a podcast that I did with a former Dallas police photographer about JFK and Dealey Plaza. And on that particular podcast, we actually go to Dealey Plaza. I mean, we are actually there and roaming the grounds. And we went to the sixth floor museum. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the sixth floor museum is exactly what it says it is. It is a museum on the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository. So right there where the whole thing happened, there's a museum. There's some stuff on the main floor. They have documentaries. They have little rooms. They have the place setting that JFK, or at least people at the breakfast that JFK attended in Fort Worth, they have that exact table setting. They have some of the cameras. People think that the Zapruder film was the only film that day. No, it was not. Nor was it the only photography that was taken that day. And they have some of the actual cameras there. But I guess the big draw, if you could call it that, is they have the actual sniper's nest that was used on the day. They have that sniper's nest, and it is fully replicated. Now it's sealed off by plexiglass. You can't get to where Oswald was, or where most clear-minded people think Oswald was. Not saying there weren't other people. I'm just saying you can't get there. Now, you can be at the window right next to it, but that whole thing is completely replicated with the boxes in the exact same position and all of that. Of course, what you're seeing behind me right now is the road running directly in front of the book depository. And if I were to move this way, well, let me see if I can do it here. There is an X on this road where it actually happened. There it is. There it is. There it is. Why don't I just show the damn picture? Tom, what's wrong with you? There you go. What the hey? Come on, man. That's not it either. Hold on. I can show you this. I'm not stupid, not like everybody says. Actually, I think I am going to have to just show you what I was going to show you. Let's see. We'll remove that. And then, okay, right behind me here. I'm going to get up. I don't do this very often. See that X on the road? God, see my dumb chair in the way? This is really twerking me out. There it is. Okay. There. See that X? See it there? Okay. We're a real top-notch organization here at the Tom Gully Show. We do have comments. That X is where it actually happened. And it's behind me in my shot because I did pre-pro. There. All right. Ronald Bateman's with us. He says, Gully heads unite. All right. Ronald has actually been to the condo for Bushmills. We've got the info here. Says Gully gang. Yeah, there's a lot of competition going on. Gully heads, Gully gang, Gullerinos. So there you go. Turkatron says she's at the Texas Theater right now. Are they playing War is Hell? Is it War is Hell? Something like that. The Texas Theater, they've tried to tear it down many times, but that's the theater that Lee Harvey Oswald was caught in. A lot of what we cover today on the show is going to involve the movie JFK, which you might as well be watching The Wizard of Oz. That movie is full of so much bunk. Yeah, I said it, bunk. Hooey, crapola, if you will. Anyway, didn't the Zapruder film come out like 10 to 20 years later? No, it did not. The Zapruder film came out very quickly. Life magazine bought it from Abram Zapruder. I think what you may be referring to, InfoWar, is that 10 or 20 years later, it was re-released in a much higher resolution version. And so it was reprocessed. The film was reprocessed. And if you go on the internet, what you may not realize about a film camera, particularly the film cameras back then, is you don't just film that square. There's actually extra stuff on the film near the sprockets, So the actual shape of what was shot that day is, instead of just being a square, as I get funky here, is like this. It's a much bigger thing than what you see in that film. So I think that may be what you're referring to, but I don't know. VV Listerfiend says, happy to be here, Tom. Don't think for a second I don't know what that means. And we're happy to have you. Succumb Me Skunk says, morning, Tom. Happy to be here. Morning? It's 3 o'clock. Infowars says, Bush Sr. and Nixon are the only two people I heard of who don't remember where they were when Kennedy died. Both were said to be in Texas on that day. I have never heard that. And I think it would probably be pretty easy to find out where Nixon was. I'm sure he was asked for a statement immediately following that. Bush Sr., different story. I don't know what. Tom, I want to see you twerk. Well, if you want to see me twerk, do this. You and a bunch of your friends go to the New Year's Eve or New Year's Day YouTube video that I did, which is 8 hours long. And you play that thing on a loop till I can get monetized. And when I get monetized for a certain dollar amount, yes, I will twerk for you. Sekonmi says Bush was arrested for his murder and released on $1 million bail. I don't believe that. Emmett Mish said Zapruder came out like 10 years later. Where are you guys getting that? I'm going to look this up here in a second. Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, the movie isn't too accurate, but still a good flick. Well, we're going to get into that movie pretty heavily here in a second. SG Fanboy says, Tom, first time catching you live. Loving the show. I'm just loving it. Well, good. Copies out on the other side of the letter. Hey, there's Diana O'Brien from Shrewsbury, Shropshire, England. I seen an interview with Bush where he didn't remember the Nixon one. I've just heard about, never looked deeply into it. Well, I'm going to check out, see, Abraham, and I've studied this. We're going to get into that too. For a long time, since I was a young lad, I studied the bejesus out of it, and I've never heard anything remotely close to what you're talking about 10 years later or whatever. We need to get Tom monetized. We need twerking Tom. Well, yes, the whole world's been clamoring for that. Positive Patriot says, hey, Tom, hello, paused or Pat, or I don't know what you want to be called. I don't know what you want to be called, man. Okay, Zapruder film. Let me just see here. Not the only film shot that day. I keep wanting to mention that. The only one that caught the fateful moment that we know of, but, let's see here. Let's see. On the morning of November 23rd, CBS lost the bidding for the footage to Life magazine's $150,000 offer. That would be worth $1,430,000 today. Frame 313 of the film captures the fatal shot in questions. Actually, Zapruder insisted that frame be excluded from the public when it was published. And on the 29th, 1 week later, Life published 30 frames of the Zapruder film in black and white. Frames were also published in color on the December 6th, 1963 special John F. Kennedy Memorial Edition, and in issues dated October 2nd, 1964. So there we are. Let's see, black and white. In 1967, Life hired New Jersey film lab Manhattan Effects to make a 16-millimeter copy of the Zapruder film's original version. Pleased with the test copies, they set up an optical house and did some more stuff to it. The first broadcast of the Zapruder film was on late night television on a show called Underground News with Chuck Collins, originating on WSNS-TV 44, the superstation out of Chicago in 1970. It was given to director Howie Samuelson by Penn Jones and later aired in syndication to Philadelphia, Detroit, Kansas City, and St. Louis. On March 6, 1975, on the ABC late night television show Good Night America, hosted by Geraldo Rivera, assassination researchers Robert Groden and Dick Gregory presented the first ever network television showing of the Zapruder film, which would have been 12 years after. So we're all kind of right here. I don't think there's any wrong answer. Let's see here. Who can forget this particular scene? I don't think any of us can forget this particular scene from the film. As soon as it comes up here. Here we go. When Clint Hill was climbing up onto the fabulous back of the deal there. Well, that should have gone full screen on me. Well, that really bites the crank. I'm not in favor of that. I'm removing it from my entire studio. All I have to do is this. Good. So anyway, what do we got here? Let's see. Oh God, this is really. All right, there we go. There's a documentary called JFK and the Bush Connection. He mentions in there that Bush was arrested. I don't know. My friends called me pause, but it's up to you. Doesn't really matter. I agree. Doesn't matter. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, Zapruder film, Texas. If you're from Dallas, and you've been to the scene behind me, this is actually the road leading to that triple underpass. The X I showed you, or at least tried to earlier, is the actual spot where it happened. This, of course, would be the Kennedys in happier times as the motorcade began. Now, that Texas School Book Depository, now known as the Sixth Floor Museum, is back and to the left, obviously. I can tell you that having studied it as a child, and I mean, I read every single thing there was to read about it. My grandparents were aware of it. They had saved the Life magazines, which I still have, from 1963, and they gave them to me. I studied them. I was such a freak. Most people think the Warren Commission report on the assassination of John F. Kennedy is one volume. It's not. It's 23 or 24 volumes. There's just one summary volume. By the way, 972-994-6822 if you'd like to contribute your thoughts and comments. And I, as like a 10-year-old, read all 23 volumes. I was really into this. Flash forward to I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm in Dallas, and I had to go to a meeting. I've mentioned this on the air, I think, before. I had to go to a meeting, and I parked my car and started walking to the address that the meeting was. And this was MapQuest on printed out paper days. This was not on your phone or anything like that at the time. And as I'm walking, I'm starting to get this weird, uneasy feeling, sort of like, what? It's a little deja vu-y, and it hit me. I'm like, I'm here. I'm here in this place that I've seen in countless books and photographs and magazines. This is Dealey Plaza. I don't believe. I looked ahead. There's the triple underpass. I looked over there. Oh my God. It was unnerving. But that's part it's part of living in Dallas. I don't care when you go. Now, naturally, today, I saw a news story. Today, there's a couple hundred actual witnesses from the original motorcade that are in Dealey Plaza right now as we speak. However, anytime you drive down Elm or Main, whatever it is, there are people giving tours. And there's normally foreigners or someone surrounding them as they're giving a tour of that location. They may indeed be taking them to the 6th floor museum afterward. I don't know. But there's always a group. There's always 3 or 4 groups of 5 to 10 people out in front of there. Today, this very day, if you wanted to, there is a riding tour of Dallas that ends up at the Oswald's room at the boarding house he stayed at, $850. Apparently that boarding house room is somewhat difficult to get into. Not everybody can just go on in. So, if you want, that's available to you. Emmett Mish says December 30th, 1970. Sounds good to me, brother. Infowars says, isn't there a museum that says they have the limo JFK was shot in, but there's only 2 rows of seats? I don't know about that. There's as you can see in this illustration here, I'll make it bigger for you. Infowar. As you can see, there's the driver's row, then there's a secondary row, and then there's the third row with President Kennedy and Mrs. Kennedy. And the thing to remember about that, they always talk about the magic bullet this, the magic bullet that. And Kennedy and Connolly were not seated right in front of each other. The seats on this particular limousine were staggered so that as it went down a parade route, one person wouldn't, in the front seat, wouldn't block out anybody in the next seat. They had them staggered so everybody could be seen. So that magic bullet theory kind of falls apart when you consider that. Have you heard the theory that JFK was actually committing suicide? I was skeptical at first, but it was a compelling argument. I also am skeptical. Have you heard the theory that the driver was one of the shooters? A Chinese professor broke down the film and says he believed it shows the driver was a shooter. Well, I'm happy to entertain any of your conspiracy theories. You're probably not going to be very happy with the fact that I believe that until somebody proves different, Oswald acted alone. I do believe there's a good case to be made that someone shot from the grassy knoll. It's just we don't have any evidence of that. It's one of the very few. We know everything but the who. We just don't know who. Unless you buy it that Oswald acted alone, which he may have. Who was behind it? Was it the mob? Was it the army and the military complex? Was it the CIA? Was it all of them together? We just don't know who. And this goes right straight back to my feelings on conspiracy theories, which are the real good conspiracy theories we'll never know about. And this is one of those cases. If there's something like that happened, we're never going to know about it. In 1978, when the House committee did a follow-up investigation of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, they, from 1978, sealed the files from Martin Luther King for 50 years. They sealed the files for Robert Kennedy for 50 years. And they sealed the JFK files for 100 years. So I ain't going to be around when that happens. Israel, obviously. I don't think that's obvious. I don't think that's obvious at all. 972-994-6822. Now, the movie JFK, well, let's get to this first. Yeah, I don't think he acted alone. JFK made some powerful enemies that you just mentioned. I don't think they would leave it to chance. Exactly. And we're going to get into the movie JFK because unfortunately, that's what a lot of people draw all of their JFK knowledge from. And unfortunately, it is so full of crap. And we'll get to the reasons why for that. Now, I'm going to show you a picture here in just a second, but just to start get the ball rolling here on some of these things. This is the photo, the famous photo of JFK, of Lee Harvey Oswald, that people say isn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, if you look at some pictures, even moving pictures of Oswald from the day of the assassination, and this, by the way, was taken long before that, it is him. It's not somebody else. Yeah, you could probably find an older picture of Lee Harvey or a picture that's not from the same perspective. Now, it's him. It's actually him. And then they make this big proclamation here and there in conspiracy theories that the CIA took this photo. His wife, Marina Oswald, took this photo. And by the way, there were several photos taken, not just this one. She took 3 different photos on that day. As most people, well, I guess maybe most people, a lot of people know, JFK and his wife landed in Fort Worth, and they went to a breakfast in Fort Worth that was hosted by some civic group. He was supposed to meet for lunch in the merchandise mart. That's where they were heading when he was shot. So the people, and you can go online, by the way, and see the coverage from the local Dallas TV stations and the network news of that day in real time. And one of the places they kept going to was the merchandise mart and that particular lunch, because the people there, they didn't know it was the president's late. The president's late. Now they know he's been injured. Now they know he's been shot. And then they find out that, yes, tragically, he was assassinated, was no longer alive. This is the route itself, okay? And as you can see, the limo came down Main Street, hung the right on Houston Street, and then a left on Elm Street. The Secret Service was very, very concerned about that left on Elm because, as you can see, it is not a traditional left-hand turn. It's not a right-angle left-hand turn. And they knew that, number one, they would be exposed for a lengthier amount of time, and that they would have to slow the vehicle down quite substantially in that place. So let's see here. Oswald definitely didn't act alone. I wonder whether he even fired a weapon. I would say that he did fire a weapon, just because of the fact that the place where he was seen had spent shell casings there. And, you know, they found the Mannlicher Carcano rifle. Originally, one of the police officers had held up a different rifle. That, sadly, here in Dallas today, depending on how you look at it, was a mistake. You could probably find rifles all over the place in any given parking lot in Dallas, Texas, even to this day. Diane O'Brien says, our town is mourning the loss of 4 young college lads died. Their car plunged off a road in Wales into water. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Diana. That's very unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. At any rate, this is the layout of what happened. Now, you see right as they have that left-hand turn up toward the upper third of the picture, that's where the school book depository is. That's where the sniper's nest is. And then Zapruder is located. You can see where he's at. And so the shot that was fired that struck the president that he captured on film is going to be a little bit, it wasn't directly in front of him. It was to his left. And the grassy knoll, when I show you the grassy knoll, and when I first saw the grassy knoll, you know, everybody makes such a big deal out of the grassy knoll. When I saw it, it is the most unassuming thing that you've ever seen. I mean, it's just what it says. It's a grassy knoll. You might see the same thing in a neighborhood. There's nothing there there's no sign, there's no historical marker, there's no nothing. There's a rather nondescript parking lot on the other side of it to this day. At any rate, this is another photo that was taken, obviously, shortly before. You can see here in the background where these folks are standing, that white sort of brick wall there. That's the very beginning of what they call the pergola that's in front of the place where Zapruder took his film. There's a larger, taller, more square sort of end of that wall, which is where he was standing when he took the photo. Let's see here. We got some more comments. 972-994-6822 if you'd like to discuss this. Infinite Everything NOS says the kill shot came from a sewer grate that was in front of the car, although there were also shooters in the grassy knoll area. Well, that's been put forth many, many times. I have seen a couple of tests, however, that suggest at that angle, etc., speed. One of the difficult things, even at the slow speed that car was traveling at, one of the difficult things would be to know exactly when the car would be in front of them to make that shot. Also, can that particular, without the rifle barrel sticking completely out of the end of the sewer and therefore being noticed by someone, could it be pointed at an angle that could make that shot? In addition to the fact that that shot appears to be far more head on. In other words, he doesn't lurch to the left. It's a straight back type of deal. So, hey, none of us are ever going to know, but, it was multiple hitman groups working for the CIA and mafia interests. Well, if you really want to get into the weeds on this thing, there's the mafia group out of New Orleans was highly motivated. They talk about Sam Giancana due to the Kennedys kind of not keeping their word in the 1960 election to those folks up there. They needed them in Chicago for the votes. It just depends on what you want to believe. Oswald was clearly a loose end. That's why he was off, says Positive Patriot. What about the other loose ends? What about the other loose ends? I mean, the four hobos that were apprehended at the grassy knoll, then released. I mean, there's a lot of loose ends in this thing. Sakami said there's a video showing two guys that are supposed to be standing at the back of the car being given an order to stand down as they enter Dealey Plaza. Oswald couldn't have done that. Well, the order changed when, number one, the weather bubble was removed. And also, when the motorcade was traveling that slowly, it made no sense at all for those guys to be sitting on the back of the car. So it was much more effective for them to be walking due to the slow speed of the motorcade. In addition to the fact that President Kennedy and Mrs. Kennedy, they like to be seen by the public. President Kennedy said people need, or they deserve, I forget if it's a need or deserve, to see and hear and shake hands with their president. It needs to be, needs to feel like he's part of it. Bob Levy's expired passport says it was Robert Levy. Was Bob alive when this happened? And I'm not speaking facetiously because I've been trying to get Mr. Levy, I will say this, he probably reads the chat on that show better than anybody else. But I keep asking him what year he graduated from high school because I'm trying to figure out if he's older than me or not. But it could have been toddler Bob Levy. If Bob Levy was alive, he was 1 year old or something of that nature. Bush was one of those hobos. Bush Sr.? I've seen the pictures of the hobos. None of them are Bush. Now, it's been conjectured that Woody Harrelson's dad was one of those hobos. And although I don't know that to be true, there is a rather compelling case to be made for that. I'm not a conspiracy theory believer, but even I can say, hey, some stories are more than others. In terms of veracity, H.C. Frick says, is it true that Patton Oswalt killed JFK? I don't think so, man. 972-994-6822. If you'd like your shtick to be over the phone. This guy says, yes. Ronald Baton, have you ever heard the E. Howard Hunt theory? I have heard the E. Howard Hunt theory. And again, a lot of these theories have some merit to them, but then there's always one thing that'll make it impossible. So it's like, yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, I can believe. Oh, impossible. Bob is thousands of years old. I don't think he's thousands of years old. One was supposed to be Woody Harrelson's dad, as I said, Sakomi, yes. This Oswald guy sounds like a real jerk. I think that guy's a real jerk. Now, I've mentioned several times that there were other photos and other films taken that day. Now, this photo I'm about to show you was actually taken. Let me make myself nice and tiny so you get a real good look at it. Was actually taken the moment the bullet struck. And as you can see, there's what we might call debris in the air. This photo was taken by a woman named Mary Mormon, and obviously it's a black and white camera, high grain photography, and there's a lot of motion going on. But yeah, that's also the actual moment that he slumped over shortly after the shot. If you're wondering what wait a minute. Terry Nee says, do you ever listen to Mark Gobert's stories on the assassination? I have heard some of those. Yes, I have. I've spent way too much time with the Kennedy assassination. When AOL came out and you had news groups and use groups that were basically bulletin boards on the internet, and that was all you had. You had some websites, but mostly you would go to alt.fans.jfk-assassination. And all of this chatter and talk would be there. And if I could ever get that time. The Mutante says, Gully Holes Unite. Well, thank you. Not an officially endorsed nickname. Let's see here. I think I got to take this. I'm going to remove this one from the studio because I'm going to put another one in later. All right. Now, if you wonder what it looks like from where Oswald shot, there you go. And this picture, importantly, was taken very, very shortly after the actual assassination. If you go there today, you see that tree that's sort of in the middle of the windowsill. That tree is much larger, so you can't even see the road now, particularly in the springtime. But here we have LBJ being sworn in on Air Force One. You can't see it, and if you in your mind imagine that what we're looking at as Mrs. Kennedy's left shoulder, that was closest to President Kennedy. Yeah, LBJ in that photo is actually covering up a lot of blood that was on her coat there. And that coat, by the way, I think is at the Smithsonian or whatever. Now, some people talked about, Lee Harvey Oswald being a loose end. Well, that's Jack Ruby. I'm assuming most of you have seen this particular photo, and certainly many of you would have seen the actual video of this because this happened on live television. People were watching the transport. If you'd like, I can go to YouTube and put that up and you can actually see it. This is the Warren Commission right here. And if you look there, the fourth man from the left, you may recognize, because that is Gerald Ford, a future president of the United States. The Wolf says, I remember watching an interview where this guy talked about being the assassin in the grassy knoll. He mentioned the hunting pistol he used and biting the shell he left at the fence. Man, that would have been a hell of a shot with a hunting pistol. I'm not saying he couldn't have done it, but there's a there's a famous documentary where a deaf man gives an intricate detail of seeing the men at the grassy knoll. And when the assassination happened, he kept trying to tell people, but, you know, interpreters for the deaf weren't as plentiful now as they were back then. And nobody really wanted to listen to him. It's from the mid-70s. Sakonmi says there's no way LBJ didn't know what was going on. The bitten bullet info was not released to the public. Let me see. I might go ahead and see if I can show you guys the oh well, there's one more. Let's see. I want to go ahead and add one more thing here. I have another photo. Let's see, from my computer. I will add another photo from my computer. Yes, I will do this. And then I'll get that I'll get that video of Ruby shooting him in the bay of the hotel, I think, in the downstairs when they were transporting him is where that occurred. Let's see here. Come on, process, you sucker. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, the grassy knoll. This is the grassy knoll. You see at the top of this fence, that is like a picket fence, like you see in someone's backyard. That's all it is. That's it, folks. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing unique about it. There's nothing noteworthy about it. And there's nothing marking it off. You can see there's no sign. This is the legendary grassy knoll where blah, blah. None of that. None of that. On the other side of that, and by the way, the fence isn't even that well taken care of, even to this day. I mean, it's better looking than it is now. They upgrade it once in a while. But on the other side of that, it's just a random parking lot. Let's see here. Positive Patriot said, what happened to Ruby after that? Well, Jack Ruby obviously was apprehended. He was questioned for a period of time. He was kept in jail, but he had cancer and died before he ever went to trial. Ronald Bateman says, the greatest living president, Gerald R. Ford, he was the foremost collector of shrunken heads. I don't know that to be true, but I will tell you this about Gerald Ford. If you want to talk about the president of all the presidents who may have been the greatest athlete, it was definitely Gerald Ford. Now, we made fun of Gerald Ford for falling down and doing clumsy things, but Gerald Ford was a two-time All-American in football at Michigan. He was also the captain of the national champion Michigan football team and was drafted into the NFL. He just chose not to go. Ronald Bateman says, I have Gerald Ford's face tattooed on my left leg. No one can call me a partisan hack. Positive Patron. What happened to Ruby? Oh, I already covered that. Ruby down in jail for cancer. You are correct. I swear I was in Vegas when it happened, said Dave Doors. The Wolf says the guy was a CIA used this guy to make hits. Remember, those pistols are being used to hunt big game. He also mentioned being sent away from the bridge because he was told it was covered. He mentioned the lot was cleared for him. They apparently had gotten off a train and were headed back to the train when they were stopped. Where was Hillary? Who cares? At the time, the CIA were working on weaponizing strains of cancer. They probably tested it on Ruby. Yeah. Well, sadly, that is not the first time I have heard that theory, that they pumped him full of carcinogens. But there's also a lot of theories about sort of a Manchurian candidate way that they, let's see. Let's see if I can find that for you. That they had done some sort of wet work psyops on Jack Ruby to get him to shoot Oswald. There's a lot of people that believe that he was the real patsy of the whole thing. That it was easier to convince Oswald to shoot Kennedy than it was to convince Ruby to shoot Oswald. Lyndon Johnson's wife was the main stockholder of a company that sold helicopters to the government during the Vietnam War. Are you talking about Bell Helicopter? Because I believe that is correct. Bell Helicopter to this day is located in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and they're the makers of the Huey helicopter, which is probably the most predominantly manufactured and used helicopter in not just the United States, but all the armies of the world. I think Joe DiMaggio wasn't over Maryland yet. Okay. I'm having some problems here with this, like a targeted individual. Yeah, he was still bitter. Took out. There's a photo of LBJ ducking before the shot people claim came from the sidewalk. Well, LBJ was in the car in front of them. So the people in the, or maybe it was the car just behind, but I'm pretty sure it was the car in front. Come on now. Be good to daddy. There we go. Oh, you piece of junk. There we go. Yeah, this one just has Governor Connolly and his wife and JFK and Mrs. Kennedy. Let's see here if I can pull up some of this video. Let's see. That's way too much time there. I don't know what's on any of these is the problem, but I can try. Well, I'm not going to try that one. That one's silly. Why would I try that one? The video of Oswald being shot is a little bit. Oh, hey, finally catch up with me, huh? Let's see here. Yeah, that one I don't really want to. Hold on here. I'm not. Back then, news coverage wasn't nearly as sophisticated as it is now. And it also didn't really allow for a lot of like mobile news coverage, right? And whoa, that's bizarre. It didn't allow for a lot of mobile news coverage. And with that in mind, it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of just the way that it was done is it in one part it is old school, and it's really old fashioned and antiquated to modernize. But on the other hand, it's than you would get of an event like that today. For instance, I was listening to the KLIF, which is a radio station here in Dallas. Coverage of the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd. Man, they were with the president all day. They were broadcasting all day, every single thing that he did. And nowadays, it's like the president doesn't get that kind of coverage. Now, certainly there's cameras and reporters with him all the time, but they don't get that sort of wall to wall, here's where he is now, here's where he was type of coverage. And the Wolf says, yes, it was in the car behind. You're quite right about that. 972-994-6822. If you want to give me your 2 cents worth before I tear apart the movie JFK, which is just really the root of it. Okay, hold on a second here and I'll stop this video when it appropriately needs to be stopped. And yes, I wish and I proceed. I proceed. I wish to proceed. Or now, why does everything happen at once? Oh, it's the wolf. Hold on a second, wolf. I got to stop this. There we go. There we go. Now we got the wolf. Okay. Hi, and welcome to the Tom Gully Show. You're on the air, almost. Hello. We're having a great time today on the show. A lot of times when I'm... What? Okay. I got so much crap going on here. All right, here, let's go. Let's go. It's the wolf. Incoming call. Bam. Hi, welcome to the Tom Gully Show. You're on the air.
Having a great time today on the show.
Caller, you'll have to turn your radio down, caller. Caller, you'll have to turn your radio down, caller. So are you here to tell me that you're the one that was at the grassy knoll?
No, I watch it. You know, I watch stuff 22 hours a day.
I know.
I saw this thing, and it was an interview with this dude that had this funky-looking, pasty white hair. He was in prison, and he was in prison for killing somebody. And he was saying that he had been used for years, as I've heard from others, as an assassin for the CIA. And he claims that he was paid to shoot Kennedy by the CIA, and that they had pulled all these guys off. Because I've met a couple of the guys that protect the president, Secret Service.
Yeah.
I've met a couple of Secret Service men that, of course, were not there. I said, well, okay, who was? There's almost, they pulled all the Secret Service guys except for one or two off duty. And he said that they told him where to go and that he was going to the bridge. Well, the actual thing is that they say there was a shot from the bridge, a shot from the fence, and a shot from behind. And the photo, the film, it was actually filmed. LBJ ducking down, and then there was a guy on the back of Kennedy's car that was, I guess, a Secret Service agent who looked back or something.
Well, that guy's still alive, and that guy's still alive and giving interviews. He has some oxygen normally when he does them. He's pretty much up there. I think he gave one in Australia just a couple of years ago, but his name is Clint Hill. And he's the one that pushed Mrs. Kennedy back into the car as she was climbing on the rear of the thing and on all of that.
Well, there's people that were on the sidewalk that actually were talked to, and they said, yeah, we heard a shot come from behind us. And that was in that curved sidewalk that was right in front of the suppository building. Or Duke suppository.
Yes.
Suppository building.
The book Suppository.
And so anyway, it shows him ducking down at the moment when they were saying there was a shot coming from behind him. So he knew what was going on.
Well,
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a list here of some stuff, but since I have you on the phone, one of the things about the grassy knoll and the JFK movie. The JFK movie was really not about JFK. It was about Jim Garrison, who Kevin Costner played. And in real life, not in the movie, but in real life, Jim Garrison was a well-known Fruit Loop. I mean, he was just absolute. And I'm going to give some examples here, but Oscar Stone fell for his story, hook, line, and sinker. So he turns Garrison into this crusading good guy. And they claim in the movie that 51 people said it came from the grassy knoll. In reality, in reality, only 4 people said it came from the grassy knoll. An additional 20 said it could have been over there, but the vast majority of people that were there that day said they could not tell where the shots came from because Dealey Plaza is an echo chamber. It's,
yeah, well, yeah, and you're going towards a bridge, an underpass of a bridge too, so that's going to cause problems.
A triple underpass, and you have the building that's next to the depository. There's buildings that were right behind it, and it's just kind of an echo chamber. I think the people that were right in front of the book depository said it came from behind me. I think the people were by the grassy knoll said it came from over there. But the vast majority of people, like 178 people, said, I don't know where it came from.
Well, here's the thing about this guy's interview in prison. He said, yes, it was me. He described the hunting pistol he used, which I used to see in my guns and ammos books. And used to have one of those encyclopedias of guns. And that particular handgun is used to hunt buffalo, rhinos, and elephants. And people brought down big game with it, Cape buffalo and that kind of stuff. And he said, I used that particular pistol. And he said that he was the one who shot him where his head jerked back from the front.
Yeah.
And you could see part of his head getting blown to pieces. Well, that was that big shell hit. And he said, I bit the bullet and put it on the fence and I left. And he was talking about get away from the bridge because they told him the bridge was already covered. They didn't need him there. So he said, okay. He went to that parking lot and stood at the fence under that tree. And they were saying, or he said, they cleared the lot for me and got everybody out of there, which there are reports of that being done, and made sure nobody was there. Then he said, I took the shot and just calmly walked away.
Now you're aware of the fact that there's a lot of stuff. I think the Mannlicher Carcano rifle, there is a ton of evidence from that day that has gone missing. And I mean a ton of it.
Yeah. And they screwed around even with the autopsy.
Well, the thing of it was,
there's a doctor that had an actual report, and he said they took my report and they shooed me out of there, and
yeah,
of course they took his body away.
Well, that one of the
he was talking about the missing piece on his head and all this other stuff that they covered up.
Well, they took him to the naval place to have his autopsy done. He was in a hospital, but they took him somewhere else. And the other thing about the investigation was that the Dallas police, or the Dallas County police, had jurisdiction over that murder investigation. And the FBI came in and said, nope, we're handling all this. You guys get out of our way. And that was never been done before. I mean, it's like, what? You don't have
there was a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
There's also, I saw another thing where this guy, and I this was so many years ago. This guy was being prosecuted for killing somebody. He was an assassin that supposedly was on the bridge, and they let him go. So, who knows?
Yeah.
There's Michael. You ever watch Michael Francis?
Yeah.
He was talking about it, and he said, well, as a boss, he said, yeah, one of our guys went in with the CIA and had him done in because the Kennedys were screwing with the CIA. They wanted to get rid of the FBI. They wanted to do a whole lot of stuff.
They wanted to get rid of the CIA. They had already made the Army and Navy mad with the Bay of Pigs and everything else. And the mob was mad at them because allegedly they swung the election in Chicago that got him elected. And then they just went after the mob like crazy. They were like, okay, we're going to help you get off.
And they wanted to do it away with the Federal Reserve. So, they put in for it.
Yeah. There was probably a big meeting or something. But anyway, hey, man, thanks for calling. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
I will be at Chuck's house having Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody that's listening.
Oh, okay. I will not be giving you a call tomorrow, but I will be watching the Cowboys because they're scrappy. We got us a scrappy bunch this year. Scrappy.
Well, Dak's just incredibly explosive. He has extremely quick feet. He's very athletic.
The crowd favorite.
He has cords of muscle on his back. He's wired.
He's a crowd favorite. All right, man, I'm going to plow through some more of this stuff. It's good for hearing from you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Adios.
All right, bye-bye. That's the legendary Wolf. We could do a week's worth of shows easily to just on things the Wolf has done. Trust me, that you would not believe, by the way. Let's get to some of these chatters here. Let's see. Oh, that's the Wolf. He said that. Oh, by the way, I appreciate is he the $10,000 fugitive? No. We don't do that on this show anymore. By the way, I thought this was funny. Kevin Costner loves two things: baseball and Cal Ripken Jr.'s wife. That is a deep callback there. By the way, 972-994-6822. It's on the crawl at the bottom of the screen if you'd like to get your shtick in over the phone. The FBI came in and said he's one of our guys. Yeah. And then here's Painkiller says, finally caught alive. Hey, now. Yeah, well, you finally did. Lucky you. All right, let me see if I can get this taken care of here. I'm going to try and show you. Provided this is as usual, we do no show prep here. I'm going to try and show you the Lee Harvey getting shot by Jack Ruby. Let me make sure I've got the most highest resolution possible. Yes, there it is. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Now the prisoner wearing a white spider from his t-shirt.
Let me have it. I want it.
Being let out by Captain Fritz. There is a prisoner. There is Lee.
He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun.
Here we go.
Now the prisoner wearing a white spider from his t-shirt.
Let me have it. I want it.
Being let out by Captain Fritz. There is a prisoner.
I'm just going to back it up for a second here because you can actually see Jack Ruby. There he is. There he is. You see right there in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Now, according to everyone, including Jack Ruby, to walk down here, first of all, Jack Ruby was well known by the Dallas police, extremely well known. They all knew him. But there was no... Like today, we would have a whole bunch of police blocking off this area before you first got to it. These basically were some doors that led to kind of an underground parking lot. Okay. So to the right of Jack Ruby is a ramp that came down from the street. That's the light that you see is the light from outside. And Normally, that would have been all barricaded and everything else. Well, not on this particular.
Fritz. There is a person. There is Lee.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Detectives have their guns drawn. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot at point-blank range, fired into his stomach.
He is shot. He is shot.
Oswald. It is Oswald. You are? Was that the man that shot the man, or do you know?
That is the man that shot the man.
So, you know, you have to imagine a president hadn't been shot for I don't know how long. And nobody knew how to deal with this from the standpoint of the press, the public, the police. This looks totally staged. Well, it might look staged, but I think you'd have a hard time convincing Lee Harvey Oswald to go through such a play. The Wolf says, "Are you Painkiller Jane?" No, I don't know if he's Painkiller Jane. I know a little bit of about this part of history for some reason. Let's see. Pain. Few people know about this part of history. I'm fairly versed in major events. Missed this era, oddly. Well, that actually is not the greatest view of Oswald being shot, if you must know the truth of it. There's much cleaner versions of it than that. I think they cut it away because it was CNN, you know, and they didn't want to be all bloodthirsty. But I guess I could try and find another one real fast. But you saw it good enough. It was some pretty clean video there. Had they stayed with that wider shot, you would have seen him just run right up, put the gun basically right in his stomach and pull the trigger. Sakami says, no, I mean, Ruby was allowed to do what he did. The Wolf says, I was 3 years old and I am ancient. There were really cavalier in the aftermath. Well, what are you going to do? You know, to be fair to the conspiracy theorists, Jack Ruby does sound like the name of a fictional gangster from a Cagney movie. Yes, and he may have worn a pinky ring. As far as the cavalier attitude and being allowed to do it, you have to remember there weren't a lot of people that were, you know, big Jack Ruby fans, Lee Harvey Oswald fans after this happened. And Lee Harvey did not do himself any favors either with the way he was acting and the things that he was saying. Now, that being said, they didn't have the training that we have now. Please keep in mind, again, we hadn't had a president assassinated or an attempt on one since 1903, maybe, or something like that. It wasn't part of our culture. And so someone being attacked in that fashion, especially Jack Ruby, who all the police knew who he was. He owned all these strip clubs. He was known to the police. He was an informer sometimes. He kind of was a police, I won't say a police freak, but he got along with the police. He talked to the police. He wanted the cooperation of the police to protect his clubs. He thought of himself as a little bit of a mobster. So he always wanted to act like, you know, in H.C. Frick's words, he was a little bit of a gangster. Unbleached has joined the show and asked, is this live? I don't know, man. It's live to me. I think it's delayed when it gets to you. Ruby was a nightclub owner and mob boss. Also, LBJ was 100% mafia, and I think they gave Ruby a deal to get him to tie up loose ends. Well, Ruby wasn't a mob boss. He was a low-level gangland figure or whatever. He needed the help of the mob to operate the way he did. And LBJ was a consummate Texas politician. So you don't you don't get the votes he did all over Texas without knowing who those people were and having their support. I don't think. The Wolf said it best. Ruby was one of the guys. I would say that is true. SG Fanboy says, doesn't one of the police call out Ruby by name? Yes, he does. He says Jack. He doesn't say Ruby, but he says Jack. Then shafting him in jail. Well, there's some people, the people that believe that Ruby was in on the whole thing, a lot of them also believe that he knew he was going to die and that's why he did it, and that he was hoping for some sort of favor for his family or his girlfriend or his friends or something like that afterwards. But let's just get to this subject of Jim Garrison, because Jim Garrison is the guy that Kevin Costner plays in the movie JFK. And if you would like to, I'm not going to cover the whole thing on this show, but if you're really into this topic, there is a website. It's an incredibly good website. And if you're into this, I really, really suggest that you go to this website and get ready to spend some time, because this website has all sorts of links. They don't just make assertions. They've got links out the wazoo. Okay. So there's the website. It's called the JFK 100 Errors of Fact and Judgment in Oliver Stone's JFK. And it's at jfk-online.com. I'm going to go ahead and I will put the address in the chat if it'll let me here. Boom. Yeah, there it is. It should be in the chat. And if I'm to go down this thing, you can see all of the errors in fact. They list them all for you. Okay. Every single error in fact in this movie is listed, and you can click on it. And well, let's just go to Jack Ruby's Warren Commission testimony. Okay. Now they've got links to Jack Ruby. They've got links to Judge Jim Garrison. They've got all sorts of, there's Jack Ruby. Everybody talking to him after he shot somebody. There's these footnote links for everything that's said in here. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. There is a full report on Ruby's polygraph examination in front of the House committee. There's interviews conducted on his deathbed. There's everything on this site. So this movie is just riddled, absolutely riddled with non-truths and junk, basically. Let's see here. We've got some hilarity. No, it isn't live. We're all dead. No one's told us to yet. Like Keith Richards says, the Wolf. Unbleached says LBJ. LeBron James. No, not LeBron James. Terry Nee says, even after the assassination, I remember getting a casual cue to go into the White House. Yeah, it was a different time, man. It really was. Yes, LeBron James was one of our presidents, says the Wolves. Holy cow, man. Holy cow. Holy cow. Now, Jim Garrison, let's just go ahead and, oh, I didn't make it real. Come on now. Don't do me like that. Anyway, I'll just go back to this page here. Jim Garrison was a Fruit Loop. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. Jimmy Garrison was a Fruit Loop. And he just wasn't all there. And Oliver Stone, for whatever reason, decided to believe everything in his book. It is amazing, because some of the people that he allowed to testify in certain trials and certain proceedings where he was trying to prove that this bizarre theory that he had was just insane. Let's see. The book that he wrote was called On the Trail of the Assassins, and it was published in 1981. And it is pure Unadulterated bunk. It is bunk. Okay. Now, oh man, this is actually funny. HC Frick says learned everything I know about the JFK assassination from Dale Gribble. What do you want from a guy named Oliver? What do you mean by Fruit Loop? I mean, he was just not all there. For instance, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you for instance. All right. This is from the Dallas Morning News in 1991. Garrison was the bizarre New Orleans district attorney, for those of you who have forgotten or too young to remember, who in 1969 claimed that the assassination of President John F. Kennedy was a conspiracy by some officials of the Central Intelligence Agency. Garrison even managed to put one hapless fellow on trial for his role in this alleged conspiracy. Having no case, he lost in court. Auctioneer and pioneering researcher Harold Weinberg said, and this guy is, man, oh man, this guy is one of the top experts. He said, as an investigator, Jim Garrison could not find a pubic hair in a whorehouse at rush hour. When all else failed during his prosecutions, Garrison would simply fabricate evidence out of thin air. His office was never able to establish, and by the way, this is a huge part of the movie, was never able to establish that the mysterious Clay Bertrand even existed. But Garrison told his staff Bertrand lived in the French Quarter and was named Clay, and this description fit prominent businessman and civic leader Clay L. Shaw. Therefore, Garrison declared, Shaw was Bertrand. Dean Andrews subsequently admitted there was no Clay Bertrand and that he invented the entire story for his own personal gain. But even though that admission had been made in court, Garrison would persist in his identification of Shaw as Bertrand for the rest of his life. Incidentally, Clay Shaw was tormented by that throughout most of his remaining years of life, as was his family. This guy just drug him into this whole thing, accused him of assassinating the president. And when it was proven over and over and over and over again that that was not the case, not only did he write a book about it, but he goes to Oliver Stone and said, yeah, he really did this. Let's see here. Belongs on Green Acres, says the Wolf. Yeah. When Garrison was unable to link his two favorite suspects, David Ferry and Guy Bannister, to the JFK assassination, he fabricated a tale that the two men had been involved with the CIA and an ostensibly CIA-run Cuban exile training camp that had been briefly active in July of 1963. But neither Ferry nor Bannister had anything to do with the CIA or a training camp, and therefore no connection to the CIA. Garrison's files, in fact, contained evidence that neither Ferry or Bannister was involved with the training camp, evidence that was later expanded upon by a congressional subcommittee. But this did not stop Garrison from repeating his story for decades and even inventing non-existing statements from Jack Martin, of all people, in order to bolster his claims. David Ferry was the guy with the messed up hair that was played by Joe Pesci in the movie. Yeah, that guy had nothing to do with anything. It was all made up. Even one of Jim Garrison's most ardent supporters, a personal friend, had to take exception to the fictionalized Garrison case portrayed by Oliver Stone in JFK. And that's the author of Rush to Judgment, Mark Lane. Rush to Judgment was the first book that ever conjectured that Oswald didn't do it. Because this was a time when the government told you something, you just believed it. You just went, oh, the government said it was true, so it's true. And Rush to Judgment, you can still read it today. I mean, it's a relatively good read. His was the first book that really came out and went into deep detail on that. Diana O'Brien says, back in the room, had dinner. Oh, now you're making me hungry. I'm starving right now. I got to figure out what I'm having for dinner. Oliver Stone chose as his hero Jim Garrison. This is Mark Lane, the author of Rush to Judgment, which was the first book that poked holes in all of the government's official version of what happened on November 22nd, 1963. I was delighted when I first heard that news. However, unwilling to record history and true only to the Hollywood concept of a technicolor version of a black and white in which no grays are countenanced, Stone, to prove how correct Garrison had been, was determined to demonstrate how guilty Clay Shaw had been. Garrison prosecuted Shaw in New Orleans for conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy. After a lengthy trial had been acquitted in record time, Stone was confronted with a problem. If the evidence Garrison had gathered had not been sufficient to establish Shaw's guilt in the minds of an objective juror, how could he, Stone, prove Shaw's guilt to the satisfaction of an audience? Here, Stone becomes inventive. He was neither bound by the cumbersome rules of evidence nor the rules of criminal procedure. He could create celluloid evidence. Shaw had died. Therefore, Stone was not bound by the laws of defamation in the United States, which apply only to the living here in the US of A. Apparently, the less codified rules of common decency were not an impediment either. Let's see here. Was Bertrand really Clay Shaw? Garrison wondered. Shaw consistently denied that he had ever used that pseudonym. I never saw credible evidence which convinced me that he ever used the alias. Stone, untroubled by the evidence, fact or logic, showed Shaw apparently offering to the first police officer who inquired that he used the name Bertrand. If Shaw had used the false name as part of his CIA cover so that the telephone calls cannot be traced back to him, why would he have betrayed himself at the first opportunity? Stone did not dwell on the subject. Through the magic of celluloid, he abandoned all logic. In 1992, in a speech to the National Press Club, an outraged Oliver Stone faced his critics and staunchly defended Jim Garrison. He had heard all the horror stories about Big Jim, which included being found guilty of bribery, some very, very prominent stories in the press about him beating his wife in public and in front of others in private, and all sorts of horrible things. He had somebody dressed up as Jesus Christ testify in one of these JFK trials. He would just bring anybody in that would say anything that backed up whatever he wanted to hear. But Stone said none of this holds up to investigation. He challenged Garrison's detractors to show him evidence. Of course, they have many times over. Patricia Lambert even wrote a meticulously researched volume called False Witness on the true nature of the Garrison probe and the man behind it. To this day, Stone refuses to respond to it. When an interview with Stone had solicited a response about Lambert's book, Stone refused to appear. Anyway, the movie JFK makes the point that tries to make the point that Oswald was a victim. He was a patsy. He was hauled in. He was never told what he had done, and he had no idea what he had done. Well, Turkatron earlier said she was at the Texas Theater. The Texas Theater is where Oswald was apprehended, not just for JFK's assassination, but for killing Officer J.D. Tippit. 6 people saw Oswald pull his gun and try to shoot an Officer McDonald in the face, the guy that came up to brace him. McDonald, when the gun was pulled, put his hand out and caught the hammer in between the webbing of his hand, or he would have been shot in the face. 6 people saw this. And yet in the movie, they try to claim Oswald he was just sitting in the theater minding his own business and got pulled out. And, I covered with the Wolf a little earlier the deal about the grassy knoll and how many people had actually pointed to the grassy knoll. There is a famous appearance. It's depicted in the book with John Larroquette and Kevin Costner in the movie, not the book, sorry. And hold on here. What movie was showing at the Texas Theater when Oswald was arrested? There we go. So Jim Garrison actually appeared on the Johnny Carson show. Now, JFK, the movie, was never going to show Kevin Costner on with Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson's too beloved for that. They would never do that. But they made it seem like the interviewer was ridiculing him and was trying to poke holes in his theory and just wanted him off the stage. If you go to JFK Online, can actually hear the audio from Johnny Carson's full interview with him, and it's nothing like that. I listened to it before I came on today. I mean, Carson's doing his normal interview, and he's just very straightforward. But that's what Garrison claims on the Trail of the Assassins had actually happened on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Anybody can listen to the audio recording of the broadcast and hear that nothing even remotely like this happened. It was completely made up. During that scene in the movie, Costner holds up some photos and says, "Hey, these men," and that's when they shoo him off the stage. Well, the three men in the photographs, when he did that in the movie, well, they were all identified. In the movie, he's saying nobody knows who these men are, and blah, blah. They'd already all been identified. They had nothing to do with the assassination. Once again, Oliver Stone relies on Jim Garrison for the facts, and he gets taken for a ride. That movie, just go to, I put the link in the chat. Go to that webpage. The movie is how, and it's amazing that still to this day, 30 years later, if that movie's been made, people will quote you this information and they will quote you the movie as if it's fact. It's not. It's not. They make Jim Garrison seem like this crusading guy that was the only one that bothered to look into the evidence and tie all the plots together and blah, blah, blah. No. Let's see here. Roger Stone makes interesting fiction movie. That's true. I think Oswald was involved, but I don't think he was the shooter. Ruud's ghost is not Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think that is Ruud. Are you honestly going to come into an Arsenal supporters live chat with your Ruud van Nistelrooy? There's not even pizza on his face. And he did clang that penalty right off the top bar, though, for us. Thanks, Ruud. Thankfully, Jack Ruby was so impassioned. He saved the country from a potentially traumatic experience. Ruud says, yes. Von Nistelrooy, he's no Dennis Bergkamp. I'll say that. This is LOL. You know, Cesc Fabregas is the one that he finally admitted that he was the one that started throwing the pizza. 972-994-6822 if you'd like to talk any more about this. But my main focus here today is that JFK movie, well, there's two things, actually. If you ever do come to Dallas, hit me up. But if you ever do come to Dallas, you are definitely going to want to go to the 6th Floor Museum. You definitely will want to go to that and check it out. It's a great museum. There's usually a few rooms in there with like 10 or 15 minute little documentaries. They have some wire copy from the first announcements of the assassination occurring. They have all sorts of artifacts there. And, it's pretty cool. Good grief. Shuley, Liverpool, Tom Arsenal. Yeah, Rude. He didn't like it when I mentioned 1989. Didn't like that at all. Didn't like that at all. Oh, and I will tell you this. I personally enjoyed it when Sylvain Wiltord scored that goal so that we could win the championship at Old Trafford. That was nice. Remember the Invincibles? Remember those guys? Anyway, so that's what we got for you today. Just talking about the JFK anniversary. Not an anniversary anybody necessarily wants to celebrate. Has been a number of years. I hadn't seen that much on it in the press or whatnot, but beautiful day here in Dallas. If you were here, 60 degrees, I think. Temperature is it right now? What temperature is it right now in DFW? Yep, it's 60 degrees right now, this very minute. And beautiful sunshiny day. Would have been a great day to be down there. Sadly, not a lot of good places to eat around there. I think there's a spaghetti factory or spaghetti warehouse or something pretty close, but you go 10 blocks in any direction, you got your choice. But just please keep in mind, and please tell everybody that you know, anytime you get a chance, that Oliver Stone's JFK, it may indeed be interesting, but it is not true. Absolutely not true. Let's just go to eyewitness Gene Hill, who I think might have been played by, was it Lolita? No, it's Ellen McElduff. Says a dramatic sequence in Oliver Stone's JFK concerns eyewitness Gene Hill, portrayed by Ellen McElduff. Sadly, Stone could hardly have chosen a less credible witness had he tried. Let's examine Stone's points one by one. Later, Jim and Lou stand on the south side of Elm Street in Dealey Plaza talking to Gene Hill, an attractive 30-ish teacher. Her demeanor has a rock-solid Texas backcountry conviction to it. She's a woman not easily frightened. I was standing there next to my friend Mary Mormon, who took the photographs when he was killed. I jumped out on the street and yelled, "Hey, Mr. President, look over here. Want to take your picture?" He looked up and then them shots rang out. Mary fell to the ground right away shouting, "Get down, they're shooting, get down, they're shooting." I knew it was, but I was moving closer. The driver had stopped. I don't know what was wrong with that driver. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw this flash of light in the bushes. That last shot just ripped his head off. I mean, blood, brains, just blew everything. I looked up and I saw smoke from the knoll. Powerful stuff. And there is no doubt that Gene Hill told Oliver Stone all this had occurred. The problem is that Gene Hill was interviewed dozens of times the afternoon following the assassination and during the following months, and never once did she claim to have seen anyone firing from the knoll. Never once did she claim ever to see a flash of light, and never once did she claim ever to have seen smoke. In fact, in a film television interview with NBC affiliate WBAP, conducted shortly after the assassination, Hill was asked if she saw anyone fire at the president, and she responded, "No, I didn't see any person fire the weapon. You only heard it," the reporter prompted, and she said, "Yeah, I only heard it." It was only in 1978 that Gene Hill first began claiming she had seen someone on the knoll. There's probably 50 people with this same story. Now, you guys had wondered about Jack Ruby being injected with cancer. Oh, hold on here a second. I remember watching Keith Hernandez's episode of Seinfeld and not getting the reference because I hadn't seen JFK. Well, I'm not tying those two things together, but I haven't seen that episode in a while. She set the president up to get shot. 972-994. 6822. You guys sometimes, man, sometimes you guys with your ways. One scene in Oliver Stone's JFK must have ultimately seemed a little far-fetched, even by Stone's standards, as it was cut from both the theatrical release and the director's cut issued on home video. And it's a scene where Jack Ruby is flu-ridden. He confronts the doctor and two guards in his cell. Christ, what the hell kind of needle is that? I just got a cold, for Christ. I don't want any of that. Please relax, Mr. Ruby. This will calm you down and clear this up. Doc, I'm telling you, I don't need any shot, Mr. Ruby. I don't want to involve the guards. It'll just take us a few seconds. Ruby looks over at the guards who eye him. The doctor gives him the injection. The camera pauses on Ruby's face. The men rise and leave in the shadows. And then immediately Jack Ruby is escorted out of the infirmary, dead of cancer. It's not surprising this scene ended up on the cutting room floor. Even Oliver Stone, source for the yarn, author Jim Mars. By the way, author Jim Mars, I guarantee you, is down at Dealey Plaza right now. If he's still alive, that guy has made more hay out of the JFK assassination than anyone. And if you go to YouTube, you can see 42 million horribly videotaped little symposiums and stuff that he's been doing since the 70s about this. And he never met a conspiracy theory he didn't like. And his tend to morph and evolve. And I did think this, now I think that. Oh, anyway, he acknowledges that medical science deems this murder impossible. It is true that Jack did make the claim that he had been injected with cancer cells, but one simply could not develop cancer from such injections. In fact, injections of cancer cells have been used experimentally in humans to help boost the immune system. Ruby also claimed that his prison cell was being poisoned with mustard gas and that genocide against the Jews was being conducted in the very building in which he was incarcerated. Jews were being exterminated not far from his cell, he said, and he asserted that he could hear their screams. Is Oliver Stone about to argue that Ruby is a credible source of information? Just as importantly, and despite popular mythology, Jack Ruby did not die of cancer. As Stone's source, Jim Mars, also acknowledges, Ruby had been diagnosed with lung cancer, but the cause of his death was pulmonary embolism. A blood clot had formed in his leg and passed through his heart and lodged in his lung. He did have lung cancer. I sometimes forget that distinction. At one point in JFK, investigator Lou Ivan suggests that Ruby's death is part of a coordinated campaign to silence conspiracy witnesses. How many corpses you lawyers got to see to figure out what's going on, he says. Oliver Stone claims to have done his homework. How does he explain nonsense like that? So just please tell everybody you know that movie is a lot of hooey. It's a bunch of hooey. I'm telling you. It's a bunch of hooey. CIA with their heart attack ice darts. 972-994-6822. Uncle Jack is here. He says, hey, Tom. Hey, Uncle Jack. How are you? We're just talking assassinations here because good times for Thursday. Oh, it's Wednesday. But you can give us a call, 972-994-6822 if you unless you're scared. What are you, scared? You know. There's the beautiful Kennedy family being beautiful and Kennedy-ish. I don't think any of these work. No, they don't work. This won't work, though. There's the Kennedy family being all beautiful and Kennedy-ish and rich, because they were both insanely rich. There's that actually picture that Gene Hill was talking about that was taken by Mary Mormon. So Gene Hill is somewhere behind where this photo was taken. Have I seen the ice dart gun? I don't think so. Ruby's heart just wasn't in it anymore. Yeah, he'd gotten tired of dying of cancer. He wished up a blood clot for his leg. But that's what you'll see if you go to the sixth floor museum. You get to look right out the next window. The next window over, you get to see. But not that one. Not that one. By the way, if you have any questions about the assassination, just ask them here. I probably know the answer. And I will mention once again, if you go to the TomGullyShow.com, as soon as you're done going to the merch store and buying a clock or a sweatshirt or a hoodie, then you can look up JFK or Dealey Plaza, and you'll get to hear the podcast where myself and Dave Michaels actually travel the plaza and talk all about the assassination. Let's see here. Sook. I'm just going to start calling you Sook because I don't want to say you're horribly, you know the way your name is. Yeah, they invented an ice dart gun that gave you a drug that induced a heart attack. And then the dart melted because it was made of ice, or the drug was in the melty part. And yeah, the CIA were out of control back then. Yeah, they asked Sam Giancana how they should kill Castro, and he said, poison a cigar. Come on, those folks have faces too small for their heads, says the wolf. Let's see here. Ronald Bateman says, did you watch that 4-hour documentary about the Bush connection to the Kennedy assassination? Several people here have mentioned it. I started watching it and I just didn't find it credible enough. So maybe I need to watch it with a more open mind, but I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. That's telling them. That's telling them. So anyway, 972-994-6822. I don't know if I'll be doing a show tomorrow. There's every chance I could. If I do, I can tell you it will be about Thanksgiving, and it will be all the things you don't know about Thanksgiving, or it'll be a bunch of things that you don't want to know about Thanksgiving. The wolf says you could just use skunk. Well, Sook, what would you like me to call you? Google CIA ice dart gun. It's a real thing. Okay. It's a real thing. Coke is. It's what the world wants today. CIA ice dart gun. Wow, look, you can get them on Amazon. No, I'm kidding. You can't get them. $850 to take a driving tour of the JFK stuff and into Oswald's boarding house. $850. No holla. Ice dart gun to come up. And it's slowing my computer really down to look for the damn thing. I'll just use my phone instead. For some reason, my beautiful face has disappeared off of the screen. There we are. There we go. You know, Sook, your little thing here is a big giant pain in the ass. I don't mind telling you. I don't mind telling you. You're crazy. Okay, CIA ice gun. Here we go. CIA's heart attack ice gun and the made of frozen shellfish toxin that would enter the target's bloodstream and kill them in minutes. CIA revealed a heart attack gun in 1975. Battery operated gun which fired a dart of frozen water and shellfish toxin. CIA created an undetectable heart attack gun. Did the CIA really? Blah, 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 blah. I don't think that gun could be very effective. Positive Patriot says, sounds legit. Hey, works for me. Oh, look at this gun. Good Lord. Let me see if that gun's going to appear in a larger photo for me. Here's the dang gun. Whoops. Let me get this over here a little bit. Come on. Be good today. Look at the giganto size of that gun. Trail of the conspiracy never ends. Let's see here. Smoking gun. Technical services. So tell me why they don't use it. Tell me why it's not. It came out that Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, head of Project MK Ultra, had approximately a third of this shellfish toxin created in a lab and refused to hand it over. It's only a tiny part of their evil doings. CIA would no longer be allowed to carry out wet work. Apparently, the heart attack gun was not that easy to aim and fire. And, there's probably uses for the shellfish gun or the peanut allergy gun. A lot of people die. Oh, hey, you can talk about the cocaine that used to be in Coke. We will someday. A lot of people dying from heart attacks lately. Just saying. Gottlieb was a piece of work. Yeah, Gottlieb was a piece of work. That I do know. Well, MK Ultra right there. What more do you need to know? But 972-994-6822. I don't know how much longer we're going to be on here. Doesn't matter to me. I ain't doing nothing. All I got to do is make dinner tonight. The Wolf will appreciate this. I'm making Earl Campbell's hot and cheddar brats. Earl Campbell. I'm so tempted to play an Earl Campbell video right now. So very tempted. So very, very tempted. Anyway, this is the grassy knoll. I'm still surprised how just not that significant the grassy knoll looks. Sook says, I got the book Acid Dreams. It's insane. It's off the hook. The Wolf says there must be another epidemic of pervitine use causing heart failure. Yes, pervitine. Oh, God. Now you're going to make me do it, aren't you? You're going to make me do it, aren't you? Yeah, you're going to make me do it. I'm being made to do it. Oh, I'm frozen up here. Let's see here. Man, pervitine. Is that how you spell it? I'll find out pretty darn quick. Let's see if he'll do this for me. Anyway, I hope everybody's got a big Thanksgiving planned and stuff, and with people. My camera so much here today. It's probably because I didn't reboot before I did all this. Oh, I spelled pervitine wrong. I'm determined now to get pervitine into my bank of slides. Nothing will stop me now. But tomorrow we'll have a show where we talk about Thanksgiving and all the things you didn't know and all the things that you didn't want to know about Thanksgiving. Oh, this is making me so mad right now. There we go. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Sorry about that, kids. Sorry about that, kids. Well, here's what happened. I tried to do too much crap. Let's see. I don't know at what juncture I lost you, but there we go. Tyler Rose making sausage instead of hay. Yes, the Tyler Rose. It's all about CIA LSD experiments. Yes, I have heard about that book. And by the way, the reason that I got hung up there is I was trying to find some Pervitin because I think Wolf, I think I'm going to officially make Pervitin the official sponsor of the Tom Gully Show. And to do that, I'm going to need some artwork, right? Uncle Jack says, oh, CIA got Tom. What happened? I just froze up for a second. Is it safe to be watching? I don't want hitmen coming after me again. The Wolf says, no, it wasn't CIA. It was Lee. Somebody. 972-994-6822. Should I try this again? Should I go ahead and should I risk it? I'm super, super wanting to risk it. Just I'll be able to tell just by opening this window. I should be able to tell. Let's see here. I'll come back this way. Oh man, no, it's freezing up bad. I better not do it. I better close that out. What happened to my dang? Oh man, it got rid of all my stuff. Oh, what a bunch of hooey. It got rid of all my fun. Get rid of all my fun assassination pictures, dude. Now I'm gonna have to put all my fun assassination pictures back, one at a time. Good gravy. That bites the crank. All right, careful, Tom. Tuning in. That's Dealey Plaza behind me there. Oh boy, we're going to end this show pretty quick here because this is just freezing up too much. There we go. There's my good friends JFK and his wife. And yeah, we're freezing up a little. We're just freezing up a little here. I'm going to start with this. Let's just take the phone. I'm going to close the phone line since you guys never call. And that's the only reason I do this freaking show is to get phone calls. By the way, thank you, Wolf. So that's closed down. Anything else I can close down around here? No, I close that. Oh, I so want to put the Pervitin up there. I so want Pervitin to be the sponsor of the Tom Gully Show. Oh no, I've got the color wheel. Oh no, I got the color wheel. Oh boy. That's all right, we're back. I'll just deal with this. Let's see. The 3-letter agencies are gumming me up. I guess so, man. I guess so. Listen, we did a whole show about JFK and things of that nature and assassination and, just good times that people in general like. And I tell you what, I think that's going to probably do it for today as I broadcast to you live from Dealey Plaza. I hope everybody out there has a great Thanksgiving and stuff. And, if you can, there's a episode that I did last New Year's Eve. Well, no, it was 2019 going into 2020. And it was either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And it's 8 hours long. It's called Tomapalooza. If everybody here could just put that on before they go to bed every night this week, that would help me get closer to watch hours so I can get monetized. And then, of course, I can twerk for you. Huh? Julian Caesar says, good job, TG. Interesting show. Well, be here tomorrow when I fill you in on Thanksgiving. Kif Dunnage says, Carpe Diem, TG. Thank you. And Ronald Bateman says, thanks on behalf of all Gully heads. And thank you. And I hope that you and yours have a spectacular Thanksgiving. I will be doing a Thanksgiving show tomorrow about Thanksgiving. The Wolf says he's going to he's going out to see what perv company still makes Pervitin. I don't think they let him sell Pervitin on the open market anymore. But I am going to get some pictures of the old packaging, and Pervitin will be the official sponsor of the Tom Gully Show. So anyway, you guys have a good one. Take it easy. And until next time, we'll see you next time. And stuff. And